So I did some research on Google looking for the most common questions that people ask about riding a motorcycle. This week on MCrider, we'll look at 5 of those questions and provide the answers. Hey, my name's Kevin and I release a weekly video here on MCrider focused on road skills or road strategy to help you become a better rider. Become a member at MCrider and get access to even more tools to help you stay sharp and develop your skills on 2 wheels. And once you get past all the Google searches for what oil should I use in my motorcycle and the endless searches for which tires are best, you can finally start seeing some riders asking questions about how to ride the thing. You know, it's funny to me that learning to ride a motorcycle is a very niche topic, especially on YouTube. There are 100 times the number of videos and answers on who makes the best sport bike or who makes the best cruiser than there are on how to stop a motorcycle when a car pulls out in front of you. But some of you see the importance of what we talk about here on MCrider. You're the subscribers to the channel, and you're the members over at MCrider.com that make this whole thing go. But on any given video, about 65% of the people who watch these videos are not subscribers, and even fewer of you are members. Now, these are people that are asking the questions that we'll talk about today, and this video is for you. You know, they always said about Santa Claus that he knows when you're sleeping and he knows when you're awake. Well, after some research, I know what you've been asking on Google. No, not everything you've been asking on Google. I just figured out what people have been asking about motorcycles. So let's get into some of those questions today. They'll deal mostly with proper gear selection and braking on a motorcycle. So here's the first one that I see often asked on Google. Should you downshift to slow down on a motorcycle? You know, the key to answering this question is matching the proper gear to road speed. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you're going 5 miles per hour, your road speed, the proper gear is first. If you're going 70 miles per hour, the proper gear is most likely to be the highest gear on your motorcycle, whatever that might be, 4th, 5th, or 6th gear, depending on your motorcycle. Every model of motorcycle will be different to determine the correct road speed range for the correct gear. Now you can look at the owner's manual and they'll give you a chart giving you the approximate speed for shifting up or down through the gears. Although in the making of this video, I found out that's not always accurate. So I pulled out the owner's manual for the Yamaha XT250. You can kind of see part of it in the background there. Yamaha XT250 is a good starter motorcycle, but they're also good for experienced riders too. It's a bike that a new rider might be learning on, and also a new rider might be someone who would be likely looking up this type of information from a reputable source, like the owner's manual of the motorcycle. But let's look and see what I discovered in the owner's manual of the Yamaha XT250. So you can see from the owner's manual that you shift up from 1st to 2nd gear at about 12 miles per hour, 2nd to 3rd gear at about 19 miles per hour, and so on. But look at the problem when you're downshifting, at least according to the manual. Everything says 12 miles per hour. You want to go from 5th gear to 4th, 12 miles per hour. 4th to 3rd, 12 miles per hour. 3rd to 2nd, 12 miles per hour. Well, you get the idea. It doesn't matter what gear you're in, according to the official source for this motorcycle, Yamaha, in the owner's manual. If you want to downshift, the answer is always going to be 12 miles per hour. Man, that's odd and an obvious typo, so let's cut Yamaha some slack and we'll look at a different owner's manual and see what it says. So I went over to my owner's manual drawer, right? You got one of those where you keep all your owner's manuals. I pulled out another Yamaha owner's manual, this time for a Yamaha XSR 900. The first part of the chart's identical to the XT250 for shifting up. And I found this a little odd because the XSR 900 has a much freer revving engine. So I don't think I would shift by these numbers as I'm going up through the gears. But at least they included 5th to 6th gear, so they at least acknowledge that there's a 6th gear on this motorcycle. But look what they do for downshifting. They totally stop at third gear. It's like the writer of the owner's manual got tired at this point and just said, well, they can figure it out from here. So whoever the SVP of recommended shift points over at Yamaha is, they need to do some revising and fix their owner's manual. Because if you listen to the SVP of recommended shift points over at Yamaha on the Yamaha XT250, if you want to downshift, the correct answer is always 12 miles per hour. Doesn't matter what gear you're in, 12 miles per hour if you want to downshift. And on the XSR 900, you can never downshift past third gear. You just slow down in third gear, I guess, until the engine stalls out, and then you start the process all over again. Now, I'm not sure how an error like this gets into one owner's manual, much less two, but there you go. And a heads up to the SVP of recommended shift points over at Yamaha that they need to fix their owner's manuals. But in spite of this oversight from Yamaha, you can use the RPM of your motorcycle and the sound and feel of the engine as a guide. Now, rough RPM is 3,000 to 3,500 RPMs is about where you want to start making shifts. If you're slowing down and the engine begins to lug, you'll want to squeeze in the clutch and downshift a gear, maybe even two if you slow down enough. Just release the clutch smoothly so that the engine braking is not too extreme when you release the clutch. Now, if you're riding down a road and you're going 50 miles per hour and you need to slow down, say 5 to 10 miles per hour for a curve, you probably won't need to downshift at all. Just use the brakes to slow down and then roll back on the throttle to accelerate out of the corner. But if you're coming to a stop or slowing down considerably, you'll want to downshift. Again, every model of motorcycle is different in this regard, so I can't give you an exact answer. But using this general advice, it's something that you'll learn as you get accustomed to whatever motorcycle you ride. Just make sure you're matching the proper gear for the road speed, and you'll be good to go. Do you have to hold the clutch while braking on a motorcycle? Well, the answer to this question is similar to the last one. If you're just slowing down slightly for a corner, you may not need to squeeze the clutch in at all. Just use the brakes to slow down the motorcycle and then roll back on the throttle when you're ready. But if you're slowing down a lot where the road speed will be too slow for the selected gear, you'll need to squeeze in the clutch in order to downshift and keep the engine from stalling. Also, while on the road, the motorcycle should always be in the proper gear, even at stops. And neutral is not a proper gear on a motorcycle on the road. Neutral's for pushing the motorcycle. While at complete stops like a red light, the motorcycle should be in first gear and ready to move out if you need to for a car that doesn't stop behind you. So at red lights, yes, you'll need to keep the clutch squeezed in. And some new riders complain that their hand cramps from holding the clutch in, and my answer to that is you'll get used to it. Hand cramps are much better than being run over out on the street, so keep that clutch squeezed, keep that bike in first gear, be ready to move out. How do you brake on a motorcycle smoothly? Well, think of the brakes as a radio dial and not an on-off switch. I can go over to a light switch and I can turn it on or off. I have two options, but if the radio in my car is too loud, I can reach for the volume knob and I can turn it down at almost an infinite range of variability. If it's a little too loud, I can turn it down just a little. A lot too loud, I can turn it down a lot. And think of the brakes as a radio knob and practice being smooth on the brakes. If the radio's too loud, you won't go over to the knob and slam it to 0 decibels and then back up to where you want it to be. You would just lightly add a little turn to that volume knob to get it to your preference level. And the same thing on the brakes of the motorcycle. You don't slam on the brakes and then reapply it. You gently apply that brake and get it to where you want it with the amount of braking that you want. If you're having problems being smooth with the brakes at a stop, I have a whole other video on that topic that'll help you out. You can go to mcrider.com/smooth where you'll find that video. Can you brake turning on a motorcycle? Well, the short answer to this question is yes. You can brake while turning a motorcycle, but the rider coach in me has to say that this should only be done by riders who have good brake control, so experienced riders, because you need to be smooth with the brakes in order to do so, And if you treat the brake like that light switch that we just talked about and flip that switch or grab a handful of brakes while turning, you're likely to crash. Now, there's a lot of discussion of trail braking on MCrider. And trail braking is the name of the technique for braking into a corner. You can go to mcrider.com/trail brake, and I've got a whole selection of videos that will help you get caught up on this subject of braking into a corner. But if you're talking about braking at slow speeds while turning a motorcycle, answer is still yes, but you have to make sure that you're only using the rear brake to do so. Because what's the quickest way to drop a motorcycle? Use the front brake at slow speeds with the handlebars turned. If you do that, make sure you do a search first on YouTube for how to pick up a motorcycle, because you'll need that one too. Is it bad to hold the clutch in on a motorcycle? This is a reason that I'm often given when I talk about keeping a motorcycle in first gear at a stoplight. Riders say that they shift to neutral to keep from wearing the clutch out. And I've never really understood that logic. When you squeeze the clutch in, you're separating the clutch plates, and it's not causing any significant wear on any part of the motorcycle. And worrying about shifting to neutral at stops because you don't want to wear the clutch out is the same as saying that you stand all the time on the motorcycle because you don't want to wear the seat out. It just doesn't make any sense. That's what it's there for. Now, the proper technique for a stoplight is always a motorcycle in first gear, clutch squeezed, foot on the rear brake, watching for cars around you, and you're ready to move into an escape zone if you need to. Anything short of that is putting yourself at greater risk. If you have further questions, consider becoming a member at MCrider and joining us on the forum. There are riders and instructors from all over the world on MCrider who are ready to help out and answer your questions. And the forums are truly one of the best resources on the web for motorcycle skills development and knowledge. Till next week, guys, it's Kevin with MCrider, and I'll see you on the road.